Hello students, welcome to the platform of the Guidance IS. We have started a new program specially for the preliminary examination, and that is your PLIMS Platinum Notes. So dear students, we have started this program specially by looking the demand of the preliminary examination. So by analyzing the prelims questions of the past year examination, we have come to the conclusion that the final understanding, we have come to the conclusion that the final preparation is complete only and only when we have a clarity about the concepts, as well as we have equally focused on the contemporary issues. So our platinum notes, these are combination of both. Here we have synchronized our conceptual concepts, conceptual understanding issues, and these are merged with the contemporary issues. So dear students, basically we have figured out more than 250 articles for this prelim special, and there are at most chances of asking of the questions from these issues. So this program is completely oriented towards the preliminary examination, and we are releasing the videos as well, especially on those topics which are difficult, which require some more clarity. Otherwise notes are exhaustive, they are otherwise notes are exhaustive, and they are framed after the detailed study of all issues. So these are self-explanatory as well, but still there is a need of explanation from the faculties and the experts. So we are doing that as well on the demand of the students. So in continuation of the videos of the preliminary platinum notes, today we are starting with the geography and the environmental portion. So dear students, as you can see, the first part of our discussion here in this session is about the major crops. So you can see, okay, it is a part of the agriculture. And if you look at the past year question paper, especially the last 10 year questions, you will definitely find out one question in the preliminary examination is asked especially from the crops, isn't it, or agriculture issue. So dear students, there is a need to have a holistic approach to study the crops, otherwise you will miss the train, right? Of course, the agriculture is such a issue which always remain in the news, but if you analyze the questions which are from this section, the UPSC very cleverly blended the contemporary issues with conceptual issues or conceptual understanding. So there is a need to synchronize our conceptual understanding first, then we should jump to the contemporary issues. So in this session, you see, we have discussed here about major crops, the classification of the crops, the essential conditions which are required for the crops. So we have given the data about all the crops of India. In fact, the crops which are relevant for your examination purpose as well, essential conditions are given. So you can see there is a table, and in this table we have identified the name of the crop, their seasons, growing seasons. Then we have highlighted the climatic conditions which are required for them, then the distribution, and that is shown on the map of India as well, where that crop is distributed. Like for example, there was one question regarding the production of the soya bean. So UPSC simply asked the area where the soya bean production is done. So they make a statement and you have to identify whether that statement is right or wrong. So basic conceptual understanding is required here. Which crop is dominantly grown in which region of the India? So if you have a imprint of the map in your mind, then it is easy to recall in the examination purpose. So basically that is the purpose of the notes. These notes are specially framed for the final, for giving the final touch just before the day of examination. Okay, then here we have provided another data. In the next column you can see the largest producer country in the world, as well as what is the status of the different states in India regarding the production of that particular crop. Okay, so we are coming to that, but before coming to that, there is a need to understand what is agriculture. Okay, so dear students, most of students has a problem in this area. They think agriculture is just growing a crop. No, agriculture is a uh, holistic term. Cropping is a one part of it. So we have two terms here. One is our agriculture and second is our farming. The farming simply does mean growing of the crops, right? So it is related with the growing of crops. But agriculture is much more than growing of the crops. In agriculture, farming is included. So farming is a part of the agriculture. Along with that, there are some other issues which are also involved in the agriculture. These are our lead sectors like animal husbandry, fisheries, other issues like horticulture, that is also included in the agriculture. So we can categorize agriculture into the two parts. One is our farming sector and second is the non-farming sector. So that farming sector does mean the growing of crops. So in this farming sector, we have various types of the crops that we grow, like cereals is one of them. Similarly, we have our pulses, cash crop. Similarly, one category is plantation crop. Moreover, here we can identify oil seeds separately. Moreover, we can put floriculture, that is also farming practice. Similarly, horticulture, that is also part of it. Similarly, we can also identify another farming techniques, like one is viticulture. Okay, so these are identified into the farming sector of the agriculture. All right, so cereals, let's discuss one by one all of them. First is cereals. So cereals are those crops which are meant for the eating purpose, although others are also for the eating purpose except the cash crops, some of the cash crops, but cereals are our basically the food grains, and these are the source of the carbohydrates in our body, isn't it? Other like pulses, they are the source of the proteins, but there is need of the carbohydrate as well in the body. So the cereals, they are the source of the carbohydrates in our body. Again, we can identify two type of the cereals. One is our coarse cereals and second is our food grain cereal. So the coarse cereals, these are our millets, right? Coarse is does mean the bigger grain. So these are our millets, right? So maize is in it, bajra is in it, right? Ragi is in it, and the core cereals, they are the good source of nutrition. And moreover, the core cereals is also a important characteristic of the dry land farming. And you know, India, some parts of the India especially, they are having a deficit rainfall. So the core cereals is the major crop over there. So it is required for the nutritional fulfillment of our country. And other food grain crops like our wheat, paddy, these are the major cereals. Okay. Then we have a second type of the crops here, that is pulses. So in these pulses, we have a different type of the sources here. Like important pulse is the gram, chana. Apart from it, tur, arhar, mung, these are also in the categories of the pulses, and these are source of our proteins. Okay. Then you can see the next category, the cash crops. So these cash crops, these are meant for the market purpose. So their main aim is the commercial value. So they are grown by the farmer specially to sell into the market. That's why they are called as cash crop, because farmer is getting directly cash from it. But most of the cereals, these are our subsistence crops, which are specially meant for the eating purpose. Okay, in the cash crops we have varieties of the crops, like cotton is one of them, jute is one of them. Okay, so these are our cash crops which are specially meant for the uh, market sale. Then another category you can see the plantation crops. So what are these plantation crops? These are those crops which are grown in a hot and a humid climate, especially in the tropical region. Apart from it, the major difference between the plantation crops and other crops, these has a long gestation period, means they have a long maturity period. So what does it mean? They take more than 8 months for the maturity. Good example is tea, coffee, sugarcane, tobacco. Apart from it, rubber, banana. These are our plantation crops. All right. Then next category you can see the oil seeds, which are specially meant for providing the oil, right? Edible oil. So edible oil, one example here is our mustard. In fact, the largest edible oil in the country. It is a rabi crop. Similarly, we have a coconut, groundnut, soya bean, sunflower, linseed. These comes under this category. Okay. Like sesame also, one crop is sesame. So these are our oil seeds which provides the edible oil. Okay. Then you can see the next type of the crop here is floriculture. Name itself is suggesting. So floriculture is basically a type of farming in which flowers are grown. Okay. So it is basically the one of the example of the urban floriculture. So in human geography, in agriculture part, we have identified this floriculture as a good example of the urban farming. So these days you can see, if you go outside the city areas, you can see lot of fields are there where only flowers are grown, because flowers, these are in a good demand in the city, especially during the festival seasons. So that agriculture practice is called as floriculture. It is also a type of the farming. Marigold is a one good example. Rose is a good example of the flowers generally taken outside the urban areas of India. Then you can see we have a horticulture. So horticulture is a type of farming where farmer grows the fruits and the vegetables in the field. So that is also for the market sale. So you can see this horticulture, floriculture, these are basically the perishable crops. So there is a need to transfer them immediately to the market. That's why they are also called as market gardening type of the agriculture. Market farming or market gardening. Because there is a need to transfer these crops immediately to the market, otherwise they will be perished. Okay. Moreover, in the horticulture, we have a production of the vegetables also. So that vegetable is required in the kitchen. That's why it is also called as kitchen farming. Isn't it? So these terms may be asked in your examination. So you should have a crystal clear understanding what is kitchen farming, what is market gardening. Okay. Moreover, here plantation crops. You know what is the nickname of this plantation crop? This plantation crop is also called as suitcase farming. Now you might be thinking that why it is called a suitcase farming. Actually, this word is a notorious name that is given to this plantation crop. Actually, the plantation crops are generally grown in the tropical and the subtropical part of the world. And you must know, during the colonization time period, these countries were the colonies of the European countries. Okay. So European capitalists, big industrialists, they buy acres of the land in the tropical country and they hire the local farmers. Then they grow the plantation crops, because these plantation crops are highly money oriented crops. They require lot of investment. They are investment oriented crop. Lot of investment is required. So for the plantation crop, poor farmer cannot afford to grow them in his field, isn't it? So definitely there is a requirement of a capital here. It is a capital intensive crop, and this capital is fueled by the industries, especially during the colonial time period of 19th and 20th century. The European merchants, they buy big farmhouses in the tropical countries like in India, in Sri Lanka, in African countries. They hire the local laborers and then they do this farming. And whenever harvesting is done, they come to these colonies, sell it to the market, take the money, put it into their suitcase, and then go back to the Europe. So from there, notoriously, this plantation farming is called as suitcase farming. So these are the nicknames. Okay. So dear, you can see another word here, the viticulture. It is also a farming practice, but this viticulture is specially taken into the Mediterranean type of the climate. So what is this Mediterranean type of a climate? That is a different issue. It will be dealt somewhere else. But this Mediterranean type of a climate has a special climatic characteristic in it. And one such characteristic of the Mediterranean type of climate, let me write this word here, Mediterranean type of climate. Mediterranean type of climate. Actually, the prominent area of this climate is around the Mediterranean Sea, especially in the southern Europe, the northern Africa, and the western Asia, like the countries of Syria, Cyprus. These countries, the Mediterranean type of climate is dominating. So from there, this such type of climate across the world is called as Mediterranean type of climate. It is also found in the lower California, also present in the central Chile, southwest Australia, southeast South Africa. So these are some of the areas where Mediterranean type of climate is found. The one major climatic characteristic of this type of climate is winter rainfall and summer dry. Actually, it is also called a pseudo monsoon, because like the monsoon, there is a seasonal reversal of the wind. But unlike the monsoon phenomena, here the reversal of wind is primarily due to the shifting of the planetary winds. So at one time this area come into the effect of the trade winds, and at other time it comes under the effect of the westerlies, and the directions are reversed. So that's why it is called a pseudo monsoon. But in a typical monsoon, the alternative formation of the high pressure and the low pressure with the change of seasons is responsible factor for the seasonal reversal of the wind. But here seasonal reversal of wind is primarily due to the shifting of planetary winds, isn't it? So this Mediterranean type of a climate is very famous for a special type of agriculture, that is this viticulture. Okay, so what is this viticulture? This viticulture is a type of agriculture where citrus fruits are deliberately grown in a field. Citrus fruits, you know, which are rich in the vitamin C, like Malta, lemon, orange, grapes. So these are grown on a large scale, on a commercial scale in fact. And then from these citrus fruits, liquor is produced, wine is produced, whiskey is produced. So different types of the liquor is produced, and then this liquor is sold into the market. So this type of agriculture practice is called as viticulture, means where liquor is produced by citrus fruit. Liquor is produced by citrus fruits. That is called as our viticulture, isn't it?